how to connect your Microsoft business productivity environments for total work management. My name is Michael Tronto, and I'm a strategic account specialist at Wickersoft. I'm also joined on today's webcast with Jim Patterson, who leads in a business development role, and Matt Wiley, our product manager. The line will not be open for questions, but please feel free to leverage the chat module within your GoToWebinar panel to ask your questions. We will be monitoring the chat panel throughout today's presentation. Feel free to email either myself or Jim directly, and we will be happy to answer your questions directly. We'll be including our contact information at the end of the webinar. If for some reason you get distracted or pull away during the webinar, no need to worry. I will be emailing the recording and slide deck of today's presentation either late today or early tomorrow. I will now hand off the webcast to Jim Patterson. Jim?
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for spending some time with us today. Let's get into our topic today, connect your Microsoft business productivity environments for total work management. Some of the topics we're going to be addressing today over the course of this, we'll be talking about work management challenges in today's organizations, the myriad of work productivity tools that people are using to address those work management challenges. We'll talk a bit about the benefits of integrated work environments, and then we'll talk about connectivity using Wickersoft's OneConnect solution. We'll then provide a demonstration of these capabilities in action in some of the use cases we're going to be talking about, and then we'll wrap up with some summary and some next steps that you can take if you're interested in pursuing these topics further. So with that, let's start by setting the stage with the work management challenges that organizations are facing today. The advent of these are really, the genesis of them is really about the rise of technology in organizations. At its core, organizations are becoming more and more all becoming software companies. The traditional brick and mortar or low-tech companies really have software capabilities that they need to develop to remain competitive and relevant these days, where the department stores have become the Amazons, where the blockbuster videos have become the streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, where transportation has become an app-driven type of experience for people. And even soft drinks that we get at fast food restaurants can become software-driven mechanisms that help us get the drinks that we want. What this does is it really impacts all parts of an organization, whether it's the executives who have to come up with new methods and strategies for reaching customers and new innovations for business, for revenue opportunities, and then the PMOs have a variety of projects to manage, let alone the operational side of things where we have to support and develop the software and provide a myriad of different types of projects in an organization. The idea here is it's becoming much more complex than it was in the past. With that, because we have a variety of different types of work now, lower tech, higher tech, product development, innovation, other types of things, we have disconnected systems and processes. And this is mostly because different parts of the organization spin up tools, they buy applications and solutions, they even develop homegrown things to meet the various needs that they face. At the end of the day, we end up with different silos of information, whether it be the service management for unstructured work, where people make service requests in an organization where people are using things like a ServiceNow or Microsoft Dynamics or Service Cloud, and a variety of other tools. Project management, where things like Microsoft Project or Project Online are being used, Microsoft's Office 365 Planner, Asana, and other tools that are out there that people are doing for managing projects. And then for software and product development, application management, people using more agile-driven tools, things like Visual Studio, Jira, version 1, add yet another layer of types of solutions and tools into the mix. At the end of the day, we end up with parallel processes, multiple data sources, and users who maybe have to monitor a half a dozen or more tools and spreadsheets in order to assess what's on their plate, let alone being able to prioritize what's most important to the organization. So the technology-driven challenge is, how do I find my way through this maze? Oftentimes, we don't have the right visibility at the right times. We don't have the right balance of agility. We don't have a clear vision as an organization of who's really available to do this work. We have manual processes to make all these things happen and execute on these tasks and work elements that come across the board. And just cross-functional coordination and orientation sometimes is difficult when we have these different silos. The idea is it creates a confusing and challenging landscape for us to navigate. It also has some direct results to your organization. For example, with the things that you do to satisfy your customers, do you have low response times because of inefficiencies? Is there lack of consistency in processes? Do we lose productivity? Do we have ineffective ways of working and duplication of efforts? Do we end up with confused or frustrated employees that result in high turnover? These are all things that can be direct results or byproducts of not addressing these issues before we reach these different conclusions. So with that, a unified work management platform may be an answer or a help to make these things happen. Wickersoft's OneConnect is an integration platform in the Microsoft cloud that allows you to connect these different tools together in a way that makes them work seamlessly together so that we can get a variety of different benefits, but yet address the needs of getting the right tools in the right hands of the right people and the right audiences for the different types of work. OneConnect being this platform, for example, if you looked at a central project and portfolio management solution like Project Online that allows you to manage an entire portfolio of projects and work and resource allocations across all of that, you may end up having different audiences that are doing software and product development that may not be doing direct project management in a traditional waterfall type of sense. They may be using tools like Jira, Visual Studio, or maybe doing some things in tools like AHA. The idea there is that there's different types of work with a different types of structure where people are doing things in a more agile fashion. And in software and new product development, that's more and more prevalent. We end up with more lighter weight task management tools, things like SharePoint, Office 365 Planner, Wunderlist, Asana, are things where people are actually doing lighter weight projects that might have to feed into an overall work management mix. The unstructured work in areas like ServiceNow, Service Cloud, and Microsoft Dynamics, where people are putting in unstructured service requests that then have to be allocated and assigned to people, and definitely speaks to a significant piece of workload that people have. The combination of operational and project work really can make up the total workload that people are facing, and understanding what availability we have and what capacity we have within an organization. Also, folks want to integrate with their CRM systems like Salesforce, Dynamics 365 CRM for professional services and customer-facing type of operations. And then ultimately, there's the need to often integrate with financial ERP and HR solutions to round out the mix. In this myriad of tools that are out there, and in many cases, they're not working together in any way, shape, or fashion, or people are trying to innovate their own one-off custom connectors that they have to maintain and stay on top of a changing landscape of APIs and solutions that are out there. The idea is that Wickersoft's OneConnect can bring these things together to easily connect the information you care about in one place and make better, faster informed decisions from a comprehensive data set. So let's talk about some of the use cases that we might use for OneConnect. Unified project portfolio management is one of them. So when we look at a work management or portfolio management process, it really goes from a top-down process to more of a bottoms-up process than ultimately for top-down decision making. So if we look over here on the left and see that there's executive guidance where they start a planning cycle and have high-level enterprise modeling to define financial and operational targets, and then maybe define some higher-level initiatives that they'd like to embark upon to fulfill those goals and objectives. Ultimately, the planning has to get down to an execution level where the teams that are actually going to do the work have to size it, determine feasibility, and be able to determine, are these things that we can actually do and what it will take to do that from a resource and dollar perspective. Well, the folks that are using the portfolio level things and tools like Project Online from Microsoft, it might be the way to manage that from a portfolio and intake and a business case perspective. But then down at the execution levels, different audiences may be using, as we were talking about earlier, different tool sets to do the bottoms-up estimation and tactical planning of what it will take to actually get these things done. And then ultimately those execution level planning or detail planning from the bottoms up then needs to come up top again so they can be analyzed, consolidated with different candidates for initiatives that we want to do. And then we finalize changes and approve an ultimate plan and a portfolio of projects and other efforts that we will work on. The idea in this landscape, a number of tools could be involved, and they may not be connected natively in any way, shape, or form. Now, the Gartner Group says providing the right tool for the job is really the way to go. There was a time where people thought the future was about a one-size-fits-all monolithic set of tools that could provide everything in one platform. And that has not borne out to be the case. It's really moved back to where best-of-breed solutions addressing specific needs of specific types of work and business problems is the way to go. And then the idea is how to make these best-of-breed tools work together in harmony. So at the portfolio level, you have a different audience. These is for Project Online, for example. It's for folks that are interested in creating decision frameworks and selecting projects, and then managing and tracking those projects at a very high level to understand how those investments are tracking. At the execution level, this is where the separation happens. We may approve a project at a portfolio level, for example, or an initiative, and the idea there is that people may use a number of different execution tools depending on the type of work and the way that work is going to be performed and the type of team that's going to do those. And that can be all over the board, as we see with just the sampling of tools that are there. And this just doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the tools that are out there, let alone spreadsheets. So if we think about this in a structured fashion, you want to have a portfolio management solution somewhere that actually has the top-down planning and the high-level tracking that you want to have. And Project Online does a nice job of doing those things, from intake and demand through managing a portfolio and having portfolio visibility and having project selection and optimization capabilities, and then all the execution pieces of resource and financial and time management and business intelligence. That being said, it's really designed primarily to do waterfall type projects, and it does that very well in Microsoft Project or Project Web Access. And if we look at that down the left-hand side, that feeds in very nicely without any intervention or any third-party help. But when you start thinking about doing agile projects or new product development, the more agile tools that are focused on that type of structure are coming into play. And then people are embedded in using things like Visual Studio or other integrated development environments, or using things like Jira, version 1, etc. And then on the right-hand side, people might have lighter weight needs. They don't need the robustness of a Microsoft project on the desktop. They want to do lighter weight task planning, maybe some marketing projects or initiatives, for example. And they might use things like Office 365 Planner or SharePoint, etc. The idea is to have these things feeding together into a comprehensive portfolio view without having to do a lot of data gymnastics to pull the data from these different sources together and to get common reporting. OneConnect provides a seamless way to get that information back to Project Online, and we'll demonstrate some of that here today. Oops, pardon me. So there's also the Unified Application Development Lifecycle use case here. And the idea there is that traditionally, PPM solutions have dealt with more waterfall types of approaches, more governance-driven types of processes. And it has been supplemented and in many cases overtaken by more agile approaches. And in 2015, Gartner introduced the term Bimodal IT into the mix. And they call that the practice of managing two separate and coherent modes of IT delivery. In this case, for example, traditional PPM or more waterfall types of approaches really represented more longer cycle times, with the analogy of a marathon runner, phase-driven, stage-gate-driven types of ways of managing projects. The agile approach is more analogous to a sprinter, using shorter cycle times and iterations, using things like Agile, Lean, Kanban, Scrum, etc. And the idea there is to deliver incrementally, to respond well to change, and to be nimble to respond to the needs of the marketplace. Oftentimes, this creates a disconnection that we talked about earlier on with the silos, where the traditional PPM is more of a governance-driven process led by the PMO in most cases, or a PMO type of role. And in some cases, the agile pieces that are spawned up at the team level can often be a black hole to the PMO, meaning They don't have the right visibility into what's going on with the Agile project, so they can provide visibility into those deliverables and provide a holistic portfolio tracking to leadership without a lot of manual intervention. And the Agile teams, they're trying to stay agile for a reason. They're trying to remain nimble, stay heads down on delivery, and deliver more quickly to meet the needs of an ever-changing marketplace. So the idea is to be able to have a unified portfolio of all projects and work in a common system and a common rich set of data that we can report against. And this is really a new hybrid project management world that OneConnect actually enables for us. In this case, your PPM solution would actually, in this case, in our example, would be Microsoft Project Online. So all the traditional demand management, portfolio selection, and initiating these projects would definitely happen in Project Online. And if it's a waterfall project, you could execute in that. But you might use a tool like Visual Studio or Jira to do more agile planning and have it feed the results of that planning and the tracking of that back to the PPM solution seamlessly, without the Agile teams having to do anything beyond what they normally do in their Agile tool. And that's what a OneConnect integration actually makes possible. So if we talk about adding operational work, the unstructured work beyond the project and initiatives that we're doing, the integrated IT service management PPM use case, IT is now being asked to drive tangible customer value to answer these kinds of questions. How much time and budget are we spending on strategic versus maintenance activity? Is IT actively engaged in activities that are impacting the strategic objectives of the organization as a whole? What departments or business units are consuming the most IT resources, and can we make improvements to support them? These kinds of questions really have to factor in the leveraging of resources that have to cover both operational needs, keep the lights on type of needs, as well as supporting strategic initiatives that are driving the business forward. Now, one way is to use an IT service management solution as your portal. So as people have ticketing systems and incident-based systems and solutions, and an example here might be ServiceNow, everyone would have access to a self-service portal typically here that allows them to make requests, whether it be an IT ticket for things like changing a password or fixing a piece of equipment, but it can also be used to funnel in all kinds of requests. And some of them may become just operational things that we do internally, or they could bubble up to become project requests that actually feed into a portfolio management process and approval process and business case process in Microsoft Project or Project Online. Also, the work that's being generated in an ITSM solution really represents workload. So if we want to get a true picture of capacity versus demand and look at what our people are really spending their time on versus what we have on our plate discretionary that we'd like them to do, we need a complete picture if we want to understand really our capacity to be able to deliver and take on these initiatives. So one case here might be an overall funnel of demand coming in. And in this use case, ServiceNow might be the funnel since it's a portal that's available to the entire organization. And with that, some of those requests may funnel in to become project requests. And then they would, through OneConnect, create a project or a requested project in Project Online so that it can be looked at, evaluated, and prioritized with other projects to ultimately figure out what portfolio projects we want to work on. And then updates from these requests in Project Online are then synchronized back to ServiceNow, for example, so that the requests stay up to date and the people that are submitting those can get a clear picture of where things stand. So those are just some of the use cases that we want to talk about today. I want to turn this over to Matt Willey now, who is going to demonstrate OneConnect and some of the use cases that we talked about so you can see it in action.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. All right, so I'm logged in here into Office 365, and Office 365 out of the box has some good integration capabilities in the form of Flow. Flow allows you to automate specific tasks, small things, and you can see it's suggesting some things to me here, like I want to get a push notification every time I receive an email from my boss. And you can come in and you can say, I want to create a new one, either from blank, from scratch, or from a template that already exists. It makes it really easy to do this. And it's really good to help automate, like I said, small tasks, small things. I want to send this from here to there when this happens, basic functions like that. And that can be very useful. But when you're really looking to, do, more in-depth scenarios like Jim was talking about to connect multiple systems together with bidirectional data flows of different types and so on and so forth to meet some specific business cases. Sometimes, a lot of times, more is needed. So to do that, we have our OneConnect platform. OneConnect is similar to Flow in the way that you can come in and set up new integrations based off templates that are already set up in here and such, and then do configuration on those to, say, map other fields and so on and so forth. And it's all done through these set of admin pages, so we don't have to go in and write code to do these integrations, and they're not custom one-off integrations for each individual customer, so on and so forth. They're things that we've built, productized, built into the platform, and then can then go take advantage of and get up and running fairly quickly as well. So right here, you see all the different integrations that I already have set up in this particular environment. And then if I go to add an integration, you'll see all of the different integration options within here that you have access to, via your licensing and such. But I have a bunch of different things in here, so you can see there's lots of different connectors available to me. And if I wanted to set up a new one, it's as simple as just clicking on that and going through the setup process. I'm just going to go into an existing one in here and show some of what that looks like, just so you can get a better idea of how this works and feels. I'll go into, for example, my project online to VSTS areas one. I can come in here and I can hit edit integration. And when you very first go set up a new integration, well, you have to tell it what you want to connect. Well, I want to connect this project online site, and here's the username and password I'm going to use to connect up. And I want to connect that over to this Visual Studio Team Services site, for example. And you put in an API key to connect to VSTS, and different tools are a little bit different there. But the basics is, okay, I'm connecting project online to VSTS, and here's some information to create that initial connection. From there are multiple other tabs that we can go through to set up other things. Like on the Workflows tab, we can actually come in and set up filters. So we're not bringing all of the data from one system over to another. We're just bringing certain pieces of it, the pieces that make sense, the pieces that you want to go from one system to another. Under the data mapping tab, we can start to look into things like what fields are mapped. So for example, here, from project online tasks over to VSTS work items, I can come in and see how that all works, what fields are already mapped. And if I want to add a new one, let's say we added a new custom field over here in VSTS and a new custom field over in project online, it's as simple as coming in, selecting those different fields that you might want to map, whatever it might be, and then hit save, and it'll now start sending that information back and forth. So long term, you can also manage these integrations and make updates to them, and without any downtime. You just come in, make the changes, test it out, see if everything's going good, and go from there and continue to make changes as necessary to update how these things work. There's a lot more to it than that. There's schedules. There's all kinds of things you can do to tweak the way these work in some different settings in there. But that's kind of the basics of it. We can connect up. We can map the fields. We can put in the filters. We can run them on schedules or sometimes in real time, or depending on what we're doing, and get the information to flow in ways that make sense from a business case. We're not just building integrations that send data for no reason. It's, we need to get this data from here to here to solve one of the cases that Jim was talking about earlier. So into Project Online then, how does this look or work more from a user perspective? That's more the admin perspective, how I go and actually set these up and the capabilities that are available. From a user perspective, I can come into, say, Project Online, and let's say we set up an integration to Visual Studio Team Services, which was what we were just talking about there. I could select one of my projects here, and instead of opening it up and planning it out, in a waterfall way over in Project Desktop, I can click the Open in VSTS button on that project. If it doesn't already exist, it will actually create it over in VSTS. If it does already exist, it's just linking me there, and then I can build out my backlog and break my epics down into features, down into user stories, and so on and so forth, and plan these things into sprints and Kanban boards, and use all the great features in a tool like, say, VSTS, including all the DevOps features for source code and whatever else you might be doing, testing, etc. And then the relevant information through the integration passes back into Project Online, so I still have one place to go to see all of my projects, not just my waterfall separately from my Agile. We can even do hybrid projects. Same goes if you were using a tool like, say, Jira. I come here, I say I want to open it up in Jira if I have that integration set up, and it will go through the same use cases. So we can build out our backlog over in Jira, plan things out, assign things to people, update with the Kanban board, and that all rolls back appropriately into Project Online. as well as other tools, Office 365 Planner, et cetera, et cetera. So depending on what tools you hook up for what use cases you're trying to do, some different options will pop up in here, and the data will start to flow in ways that make sense, and then that can be configured and tweaked as necessary to meet your specific business requirements. From there, now that you have these integrations happening and all the data is going into the right places, so you don't have to try to do manual entry in multiple systems to keep things up to date so everyone gets what they need. From a kind of team perspective, if I'm working in a particular team, and I'm actually in Microsoft Teams now, and our team uses a certain set of tools, there's some cool things you can do within Teams to bring that all together into one place. So it's really easy for people to go and get access to the data they need and make the updates and do everything they need to do to collaborate and start to work on this project and get through all the work that needs to be done. And so I'm in Teams right now. I'm in the VoIP Phones team, which is a Teams, around a specific project, our VoIP Phones project. And we're using multiple different tools to go and plan and then execute on that and even track status and so on and so forth, and documents and all of the above, everything we need to do to get this project done. And we can really bring that all together into one interface here. So I have my conversation stream up on the top here where people can put in, notes, announcements, whatever it might be, to come in and look into that. But then I can also pop into other things, like I can pop into my schedule here. And on the schedule tab, I'm actually bringing, say, a schedule from Project Online. So here's my waterfall schedule for this particular project. And I can bring that in from Project Online, see what's going on, and actually make updates. This isn't just a view only of it. I'm bringing in a real frame of a real system that we're really using, and I can come in here and make all the changes that I need to do. Pop that into full screen if you want and view the GAN, whatever else you might want to do. But let's say I'm using other tools. Maybe a piece of this is waterfall, but maybe other pieces are utilizing other tools to do things. For example, let's say we have just some to-dos. They're not really full-on tasks. They're to-dos that come out of meetings. Don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that, whatever it might be. And maybe we're using Office 365 Planner to track some of those smaller to-dos and then updating them on a Kanban board by dragging and dropping. Again, this is actually editable within here. It's not just a view only of it, right? We're really bringing that all into these different windows here, all into this one team, so it's accessible from one place. Maybe we have a SharePoint site somewhere, whether that's an on-prem SharePoint site or SharePoint in the cloud. We can pull that into the mix here too and bring in our SharePoint, say, documents from that SharePoint site and have access to those all within one place. Instead of having to store a bunch of URLs to different sites and places and things and try to go back and forth, it really just brings it all together in one place. And then even reports. Let's say you're utilizing Power BI to report on your different projects, the status of them, the financials, the costs, the timeline, whatever it might be, issues, risks, etc. We can pull in those Power BI reports that you're utilizing to get visibility into all of the different health and status of your projects across these multiple systems that we're using, with OneConnect on the back end, pushing the data into the right places so that it all flows and makes sense without having to do any manual updates. So the goal is you update information in the right tool with the right capabilities, and work with the information there. It automatically flows to other tools in the reports as needed, so you don't have to manually try to recreate reports, say in Excel or other things, or manually put data in multiple systems and spend all the extra time and effort to do so. And at the end of the day, bring that all together into one set of screens as we see here, so it's easily accessible to work with as well. So with that, you can see how we can tie these different systems together and different needs. There's lots of different use cases. By no means do we cover them all today, so feel free to contact us and let us know what we can help you with there. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jim for just a couple more closing slides and some contact information, etc. And then we'll let you guys go for the day. So there you go, Jim.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Matthew. So let's talk about some wrap up on things like the value and the benefits of what you saw here today. One thing to be clear on is that these are productized connectors, as opposed to doing one-off customized connectors that you have. Having a vendor like Wickersoft provide these as a service gets you out of the business of having to maintain those and stay on top of changing applications and their APIs, etc. And having it all be provided from in the Microsoft cloud makes it easy for you to just turn it on, configure it, and let it just work. So from a value and benefit perspective, the value of unified work management, of bringing all these different work management tools together in working in the way that you'd like them to work. It really keeps users working in their primary tools and solutions, the ones that are best fit or more tailored to the type of work that they're doing. ITSM folks would stay in their ITSM tools. Folks doing agile development and software development would stay in their software development tools, etc. And it allows users to work in the tools appropriate for their role and maturity. If you don't have needs for robust, complex schedules, maybe a lighter task management tool is more appropriate and allows you to do that, yet still feed into an overall project and portfolio management process. It also improves adoption by minimizing unnecessary complexity. So if we have simple needs for an audience, that audience shouldn't have to do overly complex things to meet their work needs. Also, it ultimately will derive a better user experience for these users, which would also drive better participation and compliance. Oftentimes when things are not relevant for people or too hard for them to use, sometimes the compliance that you desire is less than optimal. And in general, by having these tools all work together, we get better collaboration across all areas of the business and letting this thing play out in a much more efficient way for our organizations. Just the value of integration as a whole, what's the value of, this? Well, other than us all rowing in the same direction, it'll help improve portfolio alignment to organizational goals and objectives across all types of work, regardless of where it's being planned. It will also allow us to integrate all work and all resources into a comprehensive view so that we can actually do more holistic resource and work planning. OneConnect from Wickersoft is a way to quickly and reliably bring these disparate systems together, as we hopefully showed you a little bit of today. And then we provide holistic views of resource availability and efficiency across the entire organization, all types of work, whether it's project or operational type of work, strategic or maybe more tactical. And we end up with data sets that give us more complete forecasting so that we can set more realistic expectations for our internal and our external customers. Overall, we get improved governance for planning, executing, and reporting. From a summary of these types of things, what we talked about here today is, one, there are many types of work being performed and managed in today's organizations. There is definitely a proliferation of tools and homegrown alternatives to address the needs that organizations have for different audiences. And a one-size-fits-all approach is not an ideal approach for most organizations. It's better to have the right tools for the job and for the right tools for the right audience as we go through. And then OneConnect from Wickersoft makes your solutions and tools work better together and avoid duplication of effort and removing inefficiencies, ultimately resulting in more satisfaction from the users that have to actually work with them. And then our productized connectors as a service allow you to focus on your core businesses and your competencies and get out of the business of integrating these things, or worse yet, having to do all manual work to mash up the data so that we can report on it and get that visibility. A little bit about Wickersoft. We are a joint venture with Microsoft, founded in 2002. We're partly owned by Microsoft, and we do have a global footprint to support customers that have global needs. We provide all the consulting services, business process outsourcing, managed services, as well as the products and solutions that you saw here today. And we're a triple gold certified Microsoft partner, meaning that we have competencies in project and portfolio management, collaboration and content, and just overall cloud productivity. And we can help you in all these different areas. So if you think about the areas that Wickersoft can help you in, the business applications that you saw today, like OneConnect, and we have others that you can look at in our other webinars upcoming and recorded. We provide consulting services around all these technology areas, as well as education and training to enable your deployment of those things. And if you need, we have staffing services and managed services to help organizations that try to outsource the things or use contingent labor where needed to actually supplement their full-time workforce. So these productivity solutions that we work on really run the gamut across the entire Microsoft stack. So whether it be in Microsoft Dynamics, in the Microsoft Project and Portfolio realm in Project Online, whether it be Visual Studio with scaled agile and software development, or whether it be general enterprise work management and content management in SharePoint. We have solutions and capabilities to do things across all these, and OneConnect actually makes all these different pillars work together, even within the Microsoft suite. From a next steps perspective, we're happy to offer you a free assessment and roadmap of what it would take to get OneConnect working in your organization with some of the tools you have today. And because we gave you a quick generalized demonstration today, if you'd like something more personalized towards your use cases in a more one-on-one demo for your organization, please let us know and contact us, and we're happy to set that up for you. You can reach us via email at contactus@wickersoft.com. We have websites with information at us.wickersoft.com, and for more information about OneConnect, you see the URL there. And you will be getting a copy of these slides, so you don't have to write all this down. We have a list of our upcoming webinars, as well as a library of on-demand recorded webinars that you can go. So if you found this of interest today and are interested in some other topics, you can go to wickersoft.com/webinars to get that information. So with that, I'd like to wrap up that OneConnect is something that organizations are using more and more prevalently today to make work management more seamlessly unified across a variety of tools in their organizations. And we'd love the opportunity to talk with you further about how we might be able to enable that for your organization as well. Thank you for your time today, and hope you have a great day.